bridge. They used to have a train here that was carrying all the redwoods back to Santa Cruz, I guess. Nowadays it's used as a tourist train. And this is what fire does to the trees. They don't burn easily, they survive. Really beautiful. A redwood forest. This is the group of redwood trees on top of Bear Mountain in Santa Cruz Mountains, and the trees are pretty impressive. Here you can see that they encountered fires in their life and they survived. They always survive. And they are incredibly tall. Just amazing. Redwood trees and sequoias are kind of cousins. Actually, their name, they were given coastal redwoods, implies that we are close to the coast. And yes, indeed, we are, as the crow flies, maybe 6 miles from the Pacific Ocean. We are on top of Bear Mountain in Santa Cruz Mountains. And coastal redwoods live only or grow only on the Pacific coast of the United States, California, Oregon, maybe Washington. And sequoias grow more inland. The closest sequoias from here are in Yosemite National Park, maybe 6 hours by car from here. Redwood trees are taller than sequoias, but sequoias are bigger. And both of them can live up to 2,000 years. They are not the oldest trees on earth. That title goes to some kind of a pine, which I've read one of those pines are still alive and growing, is about 4,700 years old, and it's somewhere in the United States also where that pine grows. And this is narrow gauge railroad, originally in 19th century. They cut redwood trees for lumber and took it on this little train down to Santa Cruz to be shipped elsewhere, I guess. And later on, when most of the trees were cut and devastated, this became a state park. Go ahead, tell us.
So, you know that one ring is a year, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, actually there's 2 rings a year. There's a dark ring and a light ring next to it. So the 2 of them together all make a year, and that alternation of dark light is how you can tell the rings apart.
Oh, so the dark and the light are
Go
1 year.
together.
Yes. So the dark is winter, I think, and the lighter color is the rest of the year. What controls the width of the rings?
Good weather, bad weather,
What aspect?
rain.
Rain is a good answer, and it's true for almost every other tree on Earth, but it's not true for this one.
Oh,
And you can tell that because if you start here and run your finger straight down, you'll pass 2,000 skinny rings. Hi, do you have any questions?
We just
You want to hear? Would you want to hear a lecture on?
We'll hear what you have to say.
Yeah, come on, you know. So,
Thank you.
so we just determined that the thickness of the rings is not due to water. Even though it's true, even that's the limiting factor for so many other trees on Earth. It's not true for this one because this one's got 2,000 skinny rings, and if it was water, that would tell you that California had a 2,000-year drought, which I'm pretty sure you would have heard about no matter where you're from. So it's something else. What's the something else? What might be the other thing? It's something the trees need.
Sun.
Sunshine, gold star. This tree grew up near the Avenue of the Giants in Northern California, about 200 miles north of here. They get 15 more inches of rain a year than we do on average. But if you've ever been, have any of you been to the Avenue of the Giants?
Where is that?
It's Humboldt area, south, just a little bit south of Eureka. You'll be driving along the freeway. It'll be blue sky, greenery on both sides. You'll see an exit sign for Avenue of the Giants. You get off the freeway, and within a half a mile, you got your headlights on because there's not a patch of direct sunlight this big anywhere to be seen on the forest floor. The trees are so close. Between here and that tree over there, there might be 6 or 8 other trees in that line. It's sunlight. So the problem with sunlight in a forest that's as sparse as this one is you can have 2 trees both the same age, 100 yards apart. The one that gets sunshine can put on rings that are this big. The one that gets shade, little skinny rings like this. After a couple 100 years, those 2 trees are going to look totally different. One's going to be wide and the other one's not going to be wide. And they'll look totally different even though they're the same age. The most common question we get in the park, besides where's the bathroom, is how old is that tree over there? The answer is we don't know, because the girth of the tree and the age of the tree are not related. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're
So we're
high school.
not very far.
Did you grow up here, or were you from?
My parents met each other in Dunloman.
Oh,
I'm
that's
pretty happy
a pretty
about
cool
that, no
thing.
matter what I think of them now.
Oh, that's cute.
Yes, and did you know the Wilders?
If you look into the center of this slice of the redwood that fell in 1934, you can see that it started growing years before the current era, or before the birth of Jesus Christ, whatever you want to call it. And you can see various events in the world history that happened during the lifespan of this tree. 1519 Magellan voyage, 1564 birth of Shakespeare and Galileo, 1620 pilgrims arrived at Plymouth Rock, and so on and so on. So this tree really lived through the last 2000 years of human history on Earth. So, as we have heard, the redwood trees can grow from seeds, but they prefer to grow like this, from the roots. So many times you can see that there is a group of trees and empty space in the middle. That's where the original tree stood, died hundreds, maybe thousands years ago, and another trees with the same DNA started to grow. This is what fire did, and the tree still survives. And I don't know if you can see this skull, but I'll try to stand next to it. This is, well, it's not the biggest tree here, but it's one of the biggest. And they are genetically the same. Fire again a long time ago, and this is basically one tree or two trees genetically the same. Douglas fir, not the redwood. But these are redwoods. The bark is different. I can see from this huge stump how big the tree was, and of course it went through fire in its lifetime. There is also a number of animals, wild animals living in the park and in the surrounding areas. Probably the most famous one would be mountain lion, but you cannot really see them. They are pretty good in hiding, but I did see wild rabbits, numerous birds, and even deer. And if you look in the middle, you can probably see the deer also pretty close, but the camera didn't catch it quite well, but you can still probably see it. Redwood trees can live up to 2000 years, and they are also one of the tallest, actually the tallest tree on earth. Some of them reach 380 feet, which is like 116 meters. In Latin, a redwood tree is called Sequoia sempervirens. Sempervirens means evergreen or everlasting. I guess it was given that name because it lives so long. And this is how redwood trees propagate. They can propagate from seeds, but they prefer to propagate from the roots. So when the original tree dies out, there are usually trees of the same genetic material growing around. So that's why we frequently see redwood trees growing in little or not so little circles, like right here. And their bark is pretty fire resistant. Most of the trees over the years encountered fires, went through many fires, and we can see the black parts, or we can see even hollowed out trunks by fire, and the trees still survive. The only thing that can really destroy them is people, unfortunately, and they did. In 19th century this was heavily cut tree for construction, maybe for ships, and they cut the trees here in Santa Cruz Mountains, and the train, narrow gauge train, took them to Santa Cruz. And I think one of the first parks that tried to protect them was established maybe 100 years ago. Redwood trees grow only in the coastal areas of western United States, in California, Oregon, maybe Washington State as well. And there isn't too many of them left. But they are magnificent. Beautiful trees. If you imagine that some of those trees were growing alive when Jesus Christ was born, it's amazing. Another fallen giant here, and when they fall, they just cut them to enable people to walk around, but they let them decompose here. They try to keep it as close to nature as possible without human intervention. This one is kind of a standalone and looks thicker, not so slender like the other ones, and it's a giant that experienced fire like all of them here, I guess. I just cannot stop looking upwards to heaven. Those trees are so amazing. And here is a circle of redwood trees again. And we cut right through. So this is the end. This was a nice trip. There are many interesting places in California and elsewhere, and I hope I'll be able to show you more of those. I hope you liked what you saw, and if you did, please subscribe below, hopefully before I kick the bucket.